I'm gonna fiddle in a contest. I'm gonna stir up my stuff. I'm gonna stare down those judges if they don't like it tough. I'm gonna fiddle in a contest. I'm gonna play the best I can. I'm gonna clap for other fiddlers 'cause I'm a fiddling fan. So let's pack up our fiddle and let's pack up our bow. We'll journey to the place where lots of fiddle players go. We'll play some waltzes and some hoedowns and other songs we choose, where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. Where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Fiddle Contest Workshop. My name is Debbie. Mary Pat got it right. And I'm speaking to you from the old Avoca Schoolhouse in Avoca, Nebraska, population 242. I will be discussing and bringing up points about various variables that you will come in contact with when you want to play in a contest or go to a contest or run a contest. And I usually like to have songs for the things that I try to do. It helps make it easier. I'm gonna fiddle in a contest. I'm gonna stir up my stuff. I'm gonna stare down those judges if they don't like it tough. I'm gonna fiddle in a contest. I'm gonna play the best I can. I'm gonna clap for other fiddlers 'cause I'm a fiddling fan. So let's pack up our fiddle and let's pack up our bow. We'll journey to the place where lots of fiddle players go. We'll play some waltzes and some hoedowns and other songs we choose, where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. Where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. The first thing you'll need when you go to a contest, thank you very much, is you'll need to pick your tunes. And it's never been easier to find tunes. When I first started to do research to pretend that I knew what I was doing in the realm of fiddling, I was able to purchase every single fiddle book in print. It only was a couple $100 I was able to do it. I couldn't do that today. So fortunately, I didn't want to, but there's so much you can do on the web. You just do a search on fiddle tunes, and then you can go tune shopping, shopping for that special tune you want to play and play. Tune shopping, shopping for that special tune you want to play all day, all day, all day. Most fiddle contests require the fiddlers to play a hoedown and a waltz and a tune of choice. So the hoedown is generally defined as an upbeat tune either in two, in which case this would be 1, 2, 1, 2, or if you just keep the whole thing going and just go after it another way, anything in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it just depends. So those are kind of fun. The waltzes are a danceable tune in 3/4. Otherwise known as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The other category, the tune of choice, is a wonderful variable category, very vague. It has to be a danceable tune that's not a hoedown and not a waltz. It could be a jig, which is a 6/8 thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Although the general mood of the 6/8 could still be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So there are a lot of vagaries and a lot of overlap here. Other tunes that are good for tunes of choice would be polkas, rags, and blues. I'm going to switch to fiddle. So Mary Pat, if you have anything controversial to say, now would be a good time.
Oh, let me say something controversial, actually. So if you are planning on entering the Minnesota State Fiddle Contest at some point, State Fair Fiddle Contest, do know that those judges know their tunes. They know the difference between a tune of choice and a hoedown. And there have been people who've been surprised that they didn't place as well as they thought they should have. Even the audience has been surprised because if it's the wrong tune in the wrong category, they give a 0. So it's a harsh lesson to learn. So it's always good to ask before you go to a contest. And not every judge is that savvy. Not every judge is going to knock you down if it's not the right one, but they do at the state fair. So that's my controversial comment for the.
Yeah, okay. So, a hoedown. This is one of my favorite hoedowns, Ragtime Annie. When I first learned it, I thought it was just a regular AABB, and I've played it that way for years. And then I went to a fiddle contest, and I did the right thing. I talked to strangers, and we exchanged tunes and ideas and things, and I met a fiddle player from Columbia, Missouri, who asked, "Why aren't you playing the third part?" I said, "What third part?" So he taught it to me. So that's another big lesson with these things. You may be wanting to go to the fiddle contest for the sake of glory and trophies and money, but the real advantage is when you start networking with other fiddlers. You will learn things. Okay, so here's Ragtime Annie, here's the AA and the BB, and then I'll stop just before I get to the C, and then I'll go back to the A, just to give you a feel for what you could be doing. Okay, here we go. Oh yeah, beginning shuffle always helps. Which is actually in the key of G. Back to the A. Ragtime Annie. I often hesitate to have my students learn this because it's a tough act to follow. It's just so good. Okay, waltz. Here's a waltz from Scandinavia. I've been thinking for years that it was Swedish, but then I've been doing some more research, and some people think it's from Finland, so it's from out there somewhere. This one's called Emma. It's in E minor. It's easier to remember it's in E minor because it's, you know, Emma. Nice E minor stuff. And then here it comes. And then that E minor just makes the G major sound so joyous, but it doesn't last long. It goes right back to E minor. Very interesting stuff. Okay, for a tune of choice, I really like rags. A lot of folks play them too fast. Scott Joplin said you should play them slow. So you have some leeway to do a rag that might sound good fast, but if you can't do it fast, don't feel obligated. Slow is appropriate. This one's called Pig Ankle Rag, and I really like this one because it originated, and we've seen Pig Ankle Rag. Christina did a wonderful thing about Pig Ankle Rag on the Minnesota State Fiddling Association website. But the original composition was by Mamie E. Williams, and she wrote it in 1905 in Kansas City, and it was originally a piano piece that has more sections in it than fiddle players customarily use, and it was called Pig Ankles, a Grotesque Intermezzo. And you can go online and find the sheet music. It's really funny. The one thing I'm not going to do is the original key. The original key was D flat. I'm not doing it. Don't ask me. Not doing it. Pig Ankle Rag. Can't go wrong. And I like the advantage of, well, those of you who have seen me play before, you know, I love doing the glissandi up to a harmonic, just very fun. Okay, preparing your tunes. Once you have picked the tunes you think you want to do, you need to practice them slowly so you get them right. But then once you find a tempo you like, you better practice it too slow and too fast. If you are playing with a backup, they might be very nice people. They could be very sober, but that does not mean they are going to perceive the tempo the same way you do. So you need to be able to just expect the unexpected and be able to play your tunes too slow and too fast with a smile. It makes a difference. Judges will notice these things. If you're going to play your tune more than once, it would be a good idea to do something different to it the second and third time. And it doesn't have to be a big deal, just enough so that you can tell it's the same tune, but with a little extra stuff. So, for example, a simple version of Boil 'em Cabbage. Nice and boring, very dependable. Simply by adding some open strings periodically. It gives a nice full sound. It's that fiddle sound that we sort of expect. So I'm going to add the open string to the right. And then the next issue to consider is ornaments, which really means you add notes that aren't there. And you play them so that they're convincing and so that people will believe that those notes should have been there in the first place. And changing the rhythm. You do that with the open strings, and then it's... So a little bit goes a long way. Once you have your tunes, it's also a good idea. I tell my students, you need a plan B. So if you've got a really good version of Boil 'em Cabbage and you go up on stage and you know that's going to be your first tune, but the previous fiddler has already played Boil 'em Cabbage better than you will ever play it, it would be good to have a plan B. And the reverse is also true. If there's a little kid and it's their first contest and they play Boil 'em Cabbage, it is really bad. You don't want to go up there and then play a really great version of Boil 'em Cabbage unless that child specifically asks you to do it. So you need to have a plan B. They're fun. You need it. Okay, finding the contests. Some fiddle contests are run by fiddle contest organizations and associations, like the Minnesota State Old Time Fiddlers Association, and others. Of course, it's been a little creepy lately. There are a couple of websites that I think are in the PDFs I sent you, Mary Pat. There's a Fiddle Association webpage from Fiddler Magazine. And also there's a Facebook page called facebook.com/fiddle contests. So those are all in the PDFs that you guys will be getting. So that's what you got to do. And David and I have run fiddle contests in the past, and we did ours last year in the fall, and it was online, and it worked, and we're still debating what, if anything, we should be doing this year. So it's interesting. I have to have a meeting with my husband. Anyway, playing your tunes. When you're playing your tunes, use vibrato sparingly. You don't want to do too much. Waltzes, it's fine. You can do a little bit of that, particularly with the long notes. So here's an example of a waltz where I'm going to add just a little vibrato near the ends of phrases. This tune is a tune that I wrote to commemorate when our younger son was climbing from the bottom bunk to the top bunk, and Wilson didn't want him there in the top bunk because he had a full diaper. So Wilson yelled out into the darkness, "I don't want no babies in my bed." Just a little bit. Vibrato at the end, just a bit. Doesn't have to be much. Okay, and someone is chatting me. Can you keep track of the chat stuff, Mary Pat, for the questions? Great, because then I don't have to do it. Okay. Other tunes you might want to add a little vibrato at the ends of phrases, even if they aren't waltzes. Here's Over the Waterfall. I love this one. Just a little bit at the end. It's like punctuation. So it doesn't need much, just a little bit. And the thing to remember in terms of music history, which I passed my music history class, the vibrato, when it was first introduced, was introduced as an ornament. It wasn't like you put the garlic salt on everything. You might be on the table, but you use it sparingly. Okay.
So we got a question. Just a question.
Sure.
One is how to do the memorization. People talked about they need to memorize a tune, but they get confused.
Well, if you're playing it through and you think you've memorized it, and then all of a sudden you morph and you realize you're playing a separate tune, that's okay. That's a little creepy. But in terms of memorizing, if you can sing it when you're away from your instrument, I think that's the biggest help. So when you're driving, when you're cooking, whatever you're doing, if you can sing it, that's really the best thing. And if you can't sing it all the way through, you at least know what section of the tune you're screwing up. So when you do get your fiddle in your hands, you know what part of the tune to go to right away. So that's my best guess, and you just be patient. It'll happen. And if it doesn't happen and you're worried about it not happening, just keep the sheet music handy. So the minute you forget, you can look it up on your sheet music, and that will refresh your memory, and eventually it will make a difference. The other thing about memorizing, no matter how well you have memorized a tune, this has happened to me, you'll get to a point where you'll be playing somewhere and everything will be going well, and you're forgetting the tune, but you just keep playing anyway. You change the story. It's like if you're in a play, you forget the words. If you know where the script goes, you land on the tonic chord when you've had enough. That's what you got to do. Know when to stop. Okay. Now I want to talk a little bit about rules, which I hate. But once upon a time, I went to a fiddle contest local. I won't tell you where, Mary Pat, but if you ask me afterwards, I will. I went to the fiddle contest. I was ready to register, and I asked, okay, and are there any rules? And honest to God, the grown-up behind the table said, oh, yes, we have rules, but nobody knows where they are. Ew, I figured, okay, I'm fine. So every contest is different. You have to be careful. You have to ask. You may get a response, but you may not get an answer. Too bad. You just have to roll with the punches. Now, I don't know how it is in Minnesota, but I have encountered fiddle contests that occasionally have age limits, as though that has anything to do with anything. David and I have always felt that it's not a matter of, if you're 18 or if you're 65, it's how many years have you been playing? And so we have often run our fiddle contest that way, where if you've played more than 5 years, you're a senior. If it's less than 5 years, you're a junior. We think that's a little more appropriate. And some people get worried about their charming little children having to compete against someone who's 80 years old, but that way we're treating them like people. And we're not treating them like children. They're fiddle players. They want to do the contest. That's just the way it is. So we kind of like that. Other times we have actually encountered fiddle contests, and I don't know if this happens anymore, where there are women's divisions. I can't believe I forgot all about that. Ew, women's division. Do I really want to be considered a woman, or do I want to be, it's just crazy. So you just have to be aware. Time limits. Some contests will have time limits, so as you're preparing your tunes, it's a good idea to know how long it takes you to play them. There was one disastrous time at a fiddle contest, and everything was going well. It was a sunny day, nobody was sick, everything was working, and the very first contestant, and there was going to be like 30 people, the very first contestant played her hoedown for 20 minutes. And there wasn't anything anybody could do about it, so you just need to be discreet. I mean, it was a lovely 20 minutes, but she didn't really vary the tunes. It wasn't like she had a million variations. It was just the tune, and then the tune, and then the tune, and then the tune, and it was crazy, and she was lovely. So watch out for that. If there are time limits, observe them. If there are no time limits, observe them anyway. It's just the polite thing to do. Most contests do not allow sheet music, and I think this is quite reasonable. We're certainly promoting what is mainly an oral tradition. But then I see these musicians who are perfectly capable of playing, rings around me, but the memorization thing freaks them out. And so what David and I have done is we allow sheet music at contests we have run. And it's really been a good idea because fiddlers who have been, or I should say violinists, who have entered using the sheet music in a couple of years, by a couple of years later, they are braver and they are willing to do it with memorized, and they've had the experience, so it helps them grow and become more of a part of the fiddling community. So I sort of like that.
So when you do that, Debbie, do you, is there a deduction in what would performance, or I don't know, one of the categories?
Yeah, well,
if you're using sheet music.
Yeah, it depends, and it's all up to the judges.
Okay.
Yes, and that would come under the category of presentation.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
If you present well with, memorized and everything is fine, that's okay. But if you do it memorized and you keep forgetting your notes, that's, also not optimum. So it just depends. If you play with the sheet music, but you're still engaging the audience, it's very cool. And if the music doesn't fall off the stand, that's also very nice. So watch out about that. Another issue is backups. Some fiddle contests require you to have only one or two backup players. Usually it's a guitar. Oftentimes you can have a fiddle player back you up as long as the fiddle player isn't playing the melody. So that gets to be a little tricky. So again, you have to consult the rules if you can find them. Okay, tune choices. There are some tunes that are not allowed at some fiddle contests. They're considered trick tunes, like Orange Blossom Special or Listen to the Mockingbird and Black Mountain Rag, tunes that would be cross-tuned. So watch out for that. Oftentimes they are spelled out in the rules, but sometimes they're not. And if you have a feeling that, gee, I wonder if they would consider this a trick tune because it's so similar to one of those other ones. If you have any doubt, do another tune. Heaven knows there are millions of fiddle tunes you could be using. You don't have to risk playing a tune that might be banned, although that may very well be the kind of tune you want to play because it's banned. And it reminds me of the American Library Association's hosting of the Banned Books Week. It just makes you want to read one of those banned books because it's banned. And that's okay. Just a time and place for everything. Prizes. Dave and I have gone over this a million times. Most contests will have prizes of some kind. It might be trophies, it might be money, it might be recording time, it might be certificates. So they're very nice, and I'm sure whatever venues are offering are trying to stay within their budget. But ultimately, I don't think the biggest benefit is the glory or the prizes. It's the networking. It's so much fun. Score sheets. Most contests will give you the judges' score sheets after you play, and I think this is very, very helpful. They will comment, hopefully tactfully, about things you've done well, things they think you could do differently, things they enjoyed. And the following criteria is often danceability, rhythm, style, whatever the heck that is. That's just such a subjective thing. Most of these things are. Level of difficulty. So if you're obviously a fabulous musician and you just play one of those easy versions of Boiled and Cabbage, they're not going to be very convinced or impressed. Intonation. Playing in tune is so important. Clarity of tone and presentation. Your willingness to say, hello, how are you? Your willingness to thank your backup, to introduce your backup happens it's a very humane, social thing. Okay. During the contest, hopefully you will have already tuned before you get up there to play. Most contests will not allow you to tune. And we have encountered the difficulty when the temperature of the place you're waiting is not at all the same temperature or sun exposure as when you get on stage and play. And so the strings can go out of tune immediately. And that can be it's disgusting. So when Dave and I have run contests, we have encouraged folks to tune on stage, because I think that's when you really get to know the fiddle player. When a string is out of tune and they have to solve this problem before they even get to the music, it just shows a strength of character that you would not have ordinarily been able to witness. So we like tuning, so that helps. Also, make sure to introduce yourself, your backup players, and your tunes, and do it slowly, because although you may be able to speak very fast, there are some people who are even older than me that have to listen very slowly. So enunciate your consonant sounds and take a deep cleansing breath. Another thing that is helpful is to play a shuffle introduction to make sure that your backup players know what key you are in and how fast you are likely to be going. So that can be very helpful. Then you know it's in D, you know it's 1, 2, 1, 2. It makes a big difference. There have been some times when I've been backing up fiddle players, and this has happened, and I don't think the grown-ups have done it because they don't even want to talk, they just want to play. But sometimes some of the younger players will hand me a piece of paper with a list of their tunes and the keys that they are in, and I find this very helpful. And I put it somewhere where I can see it when we're playing so I don't mess them up. Well, 9 times out of 10, they get the titles of the tunes correctly, but the keys are all wrong. However, if they play a shuffle first, I will know within 2 beats that they're all screwed up in terms of the key, but I will know what key it is by the time they start the tune. So that's kind of nice. So I think a good shuffle introduction is very helpful. When you make a mistake, keep going. If it's in the first part of a tune and the tune will repeat, When you get to the repeat your mistake. Because it's fun, it's a great mental exercise, and also it will make the judges think, well, gee, maybe that really should have been a G sharp. Weapons of mass destruction, weapons of mass destruction. You know, you keep repeating it, people will believe it. So do not stop when you make a mistake. Do not make a face, do not panic. Take a deep cleansing breath. The next disaster that you may encounter is when your backup player uses chords that distract you. Keep going. You know, and I do that to fiddlers all the time. They're so patient with me, particularly if it's a B minor chord. I'm out on a limb. So you got to keep going. Do not stop. Do not make a face. Do not panic. Take a deep cleansing breath. Those of you who have been through Lamaze training will know how helpful this stuff can be. Another thing you need to do is give your backup player a clear signal as to when the heck you're done. Now, most normally, this is often done where you lift your leg. Ooh, you could actually see it. There I am. Okay, at the end of a phrase, but that's got to be practiced. For example, if you don't practice, it won't work. If you did, let's see. If I want to end it, I'll probably lift my leg there and then end it. Or you could just give your backup a panicked look, and they will know you're in trouble. And they will know you're going to end the tune sometime. So even if the panicked look doesn't work and the lifting of the leg doesn't work, when you stop, they will eventually stop. Takes care of itself. Okay, what else did I want to say? Oh, yeah, and after you're done, no matter how horrible an experience it might have been, you smile sweetly, thank your backup, thank the audience for listening, or just give them a little bow and acknowledge, that they're there and that they haven't left. Yeah, okay, that's very nice. All right. Let's see, let me switch back. I'm going to switch back to my guitar, so if you have anything cogent to say, Mary Pat, this would be a good time.
So there is one exception to the rule, and that is when a contest is sequestered, where the judges are sequestered. And the only one I know of in Minnesota or around these parts would be the Minnesota State Fair contest. The judges are sequestered. And so in that case, the contestants are not to speak. I find this really, really hard. And so I much prefer because I learned from Debbie, and so I learned how to introduce, do all this kind of good stuff and say a little about my tune and do whatever. And so it's kind of hard. So, so that's where reading the rules are important, because if it is sequestered and the judges are sequestered, and the reason they do that is because these judges may know, they may have students, or they're in the community sequestered. So Teresa's asking, are they sequestered in different area? In this case, in the state Minnesota State Fair, they are backstage, and they can hear the music is piped in, so they're backstage. They can hear things through the microphone. So we write out, these are the tunes we're playing. The MC introduces us by number, introduces the name of the tune, and then we just get up and play. So we have to be really careful not to say anything.
Yes.
It's hard.
It's very hard. And it's true in the classical world, too. It was only in my lifetime, that when women would audition for orchestral positions, they are often behind a screen, so they are sort of sequestered. And so the women have been told to take off their shoes so that the judges in the front row could not tell if they were women or men. Oh, yeah, it's totally weird. And so that often happens. But there was a funny sequestered story. There was one time, and I was backing up a fiddle player, and the judges were sequestered, but they were just wanting to have fun. And so if they were playing where they were sequestered, they could be heard by the monitors on stage, so that the fiddle player playing could hear what the judges were playing. Ew, ew, it was like so high school. And so this one fiddler was playing, I think it was Cactus Pete, and he was playing, and Lawyer Burginal, I believe, was one of the judges. And so while Cactus Pete was playing, Lawyer Burginal was playing the same tune that Cactus Pete was playing at the same time that Cactus Pete was playing. And so he was trying to distract Cactus Pete. But Cactus Pete knew. And after he played his hoedown, he said into the microphone, "Is that you, Burginal?" So funny. But, outside of the contest and the glory and the fun, it's the networking with other fiddle players that you really must do, whether you've played well or played badly. I remember the first contest I ever went to, I was there with a tape recorder, and there was another fiddle player who was a doctor, who is dead now, and he was there with a tape recorder. We were the only two people there in Newton, Iowa with tape recorders, and so we sort of bonded, and that was very interesting. And then a couple years ago, he died, and he left me all of his cassette tapes. Ew, I didn't even know he was sick. So it's kind of weird. You just never know what will come of this. So before and after you play, make sure to take advantage of the fiddle players that are there. When you hear a tune that you wish you could play, you need to have pencil and paper handy. And you got to write down the title. You'll think you'll remember it, you won't remember it. You'll think you'll remember the names of the fiddle players, you won't remember squat. You need to write it down, just put it in your pocket, put it in the fiddle case, and then you need to just jam with other fiddlers. I'm gonna jam with other fiddlers, I'm gonna take the risk, I'm gonna play tunes I've never heard, I hope they aren't too brisk. I'm gonna jam with other fiddlers, I'm gonna find new tunes to learn, I'm gonna back up other fiddlers until it is my turn. So let's pack up our fiddle and let's pack up our bow. We'll journey to the place where lots of fiddle players go. We'll play some waltzes and some hoedowns and other songs we choose, where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. And these things will lead to other things. I refer to this as leakage, where you do one thing good and 5 other good things happen that you just never imagined. I'm gonna fiddle for a barn dance, I'm gonna keep a steady beat, I'm gonna fiddle up some medleys for happy dancing feet. I'm gonna fiddle for a barn dance, I'm gonna take the chance, I'm gonna face the music, 'cause I'd rather play than dance. So let's pack up our fiddle and let's pack up our bow. We'll journey to the place where lots of fiddle players go. We'll play some waltzes and some hoedowns and other songs we choose, where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. Where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. Thank you. And that's
Nice.
just about everything I have to say on this subject, but who's got questions and stuff?
There's a question here. The 3 trick tunes that Debbie mentioned, I actually think, they were Orange, let's see.
Yes.
Orange Blossom.
Yeah, Orange Blossom Special. Listen to the Mockingbird. And Black Mountain Rag. And I think that is largely because it is usually played in a cross tuning, which is also fun, but hard to work into a contest.
Yep. So.
Just like band books, I like them.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about your backup. I sometimes, and I'm seeing this in contests where even when there is a backup guitar player offered by the contest, we're trying to do that much more often for fiddlers, that fiddlers are declining having a backup and they're just playing on their own. So I've always thought that you're just always better with the backup, even if they don't play all the chords you like, you're still better with the backup. So your opinion on that, Debbie?
I think that the easiest way to do it is to marry your backup player and hope that he cooks. That's worked for me. But yes, if you're the kind of fiddle player that's going to be distracted by variables that backup players will do, sometimes without knowing it, then don't use a backup. Just use your best judgment, and I've had that happen to me at a contest where I'm there to back up, and some kid will want me to back up on 2 of his tunes, but not the 3rd one. And, that's okay. It's got to be a personal choice, but you won't know the right thing to do completely until you have done the wrong thing. So I would encourage you to do something.
So
I think Ruth has a question.
Yeah, we've got some questions. Okay, go ahead, Ruth. Then we've got some from the chat. So go ahead.
So when you're playing with the backup, do you get to rehearse with that person, or is it just cold?
It can be just cold. There are often jam sessions that will happen before and during a contest. So if you're playing with strangers, you should have a chance to run through the tune quickly.
Yep.
But not for a long time.
Show up early. I have this great picture of what, in fact, the State Fair, Minnesota State Fair contest has had so many people needing backup that we had to hire a second guitar player. And to make our case to the contest manager, I showed a picture of 12 kids in line waiting to warm up with the backup guitar player before they went on stage. And I said, I think we need another one.
Wow.
I think we're wearing the guy out. And so we got 2 of them so they can kind of split the load. But yeah, show up to the contest early so that you can get yourself registered, find your backup, and grab them for a few minutes to run through your tune.
And the other thing I would advise, if you're in this situation where you're constantly, oh my God, who's going to back me up? That means you need to learn how to back up. You need to get a guitar and you need to do it yourself. No one will do it better than the fiddle player. Once you've sort of been able to do a few chords, you will know exactly what to do. You'll be able to tell that they're changing a chord position just from watching the muscles inside their fingers. You would be so much better at it than a backup who only plays guitar. It's fun. It impresses people. They think you're only a fiddle player and then you can play guitar, and they freak out.
And be sure to tip your backup. That's the other thing we've been...
Yes. Whenever I've played with a backup that I wasn't married to, I would always share whatever prize money was there.
Sure.
Just routine. It's just it's fair. Yeah.
So I'm going to out Julian here. So I've been watching Julian play in contests since she was like, and now I'm really glad we're not in the same division, Julian. That's all I can say. But we had this kind of little, like workshop, and we said, okay, everybody, you all have to make sure you tip tip your backup, right? So we're telling tip your backup. So, any rate, so Gilmore Lee, those of you who know Gilmore Lee, he's in his 80s, he's got a great sense of humor, what have you, and he's done backup for a lot of years. So we were at this contest together, and so Julian had won, and so she came with a dollar bill and was wanting to give it to Gilmore, and Gilmore's like, oh no, honey, and we're like, no, take because we're teaching the kids there. So he takes the dollar, right? So I come up behind her and I'm giving him a 20, and he goes like this, your money I'll take. He said, anyway, so that's my great tip your backup. But yeah, so yes, and it will encourage guitar players to come and show up at contests, because there are guitar players who figured out if they come to a contest and hang around, there's going to be some fiddle player that will tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, can you help me out? And they might get some experience and have some fun and make some tips. So
absolutely. And when you learn to do a guitar backup to fiddle tunes that you play, you will know that tune much better than you did when you only played it on the fiddle. It's huge. It's huge. You will discover things you didn't notice.
Let's see. So I'm getting a few questions here. There was a question about like trick and fancy. So there are some, you had talked about not having like the cross tuning or the orange blossom special and those kinds of things. Some contests will have like a trick contest, a fancy, anything goes. They'll call it all different kinds of things, but that's the one division where all the things that aren't allowed in other divisions are allowed in that division. That's when Randy can get his put on his head flaps and sing the snowblower waltz. It's epic. You have to see it. So it's kind of just when you can just have a good time. And so not every contest has them, but that, check to see if a contest has like a, trick, fancy, fun, or kind of division for that sort of thing. But otherwise cross tuning is not typically allowed. You would,
right, right. And I think it's nice too, no matter how many fiddle players want to be at these events, there's always going to be a certain percentage of the audience that have been dragged there. And they're just sitting around. And oh my God, it's another fiddle player. Well, here's another fiddle player. Here's another fiddle. So because of that phenomena, one thing that David and I have instigated several times is a fee-fi-fo division where you play a fiddle tune on an instrument that's not a fiddle. And it's nice. It's a nice change of texture. So you might get a vocal, you might get a whistler, you might get a clarinetist. So it's very fun. So I like doing that too, just to break up for those few people who just have no tolerance for fiddles.
And that idea has, like all good ideas, have kind of hit the road. So both Sheila and I are doing that as well. So when you come to Minnesota, you'll find fee-fi-fo, the fiddle tune on anything other than a fiddle. And you're absolutely right. It's made it really interesting. And we've had all kinds of great musicians who showed up playing other old time instruments. And it's just, it's been a nice asset. The audience really likes it.
Because it's so unexpected.
Yeah. And sometimes it's the kid. We've seen like the kid sister can all of a sudden, because the parents came along because the older sister played the violin. So the kid sister.
Yes.
Yeah, the kid sister. Yeah. So at any rate, yeah. So it gives them something to do. They can play it on their trumpet.
Yeah, I have a fiddle student who also plays the trombone, and I'm keep after her. You got to do pig ankle rag on the trombone. She can do it. It's great. It's great.
So let's see. We also had a question. Let's see. I'm going back here. Oh, yeah. All right. This is actually a good one. It's a question like, why would judges not share their evaluations? And that's actually more of a Minnesota question because Debbie, I have found that in any place outside of Minnesota, you're going to find that the judges will share the evaluations, and in Minnesota, they typically don't. And the reason is that we have a long, dark, sordid history of fiddle players behaving badly. And so...
It's tricky.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I wanted to mention. It was years ago, I was playing a contest and everybody thought that the judging was skittish. It just didn't make sense. I came in fifth and people were disgusted that I only came in fifth. But the one thing I liked was that I beat the one fiddle player that I thought should have won, and he also didn't win. But I felt good about the contest because I beat this one guy. He was a really hotshot fiddle player. 5 years later, I met the same guy at another fiddle contest. And I congratulated him. I said, "Oh, it's really great to see you." I said, "You were the only one I wanted to beat 5 years ago." And he was so devastated by that contest that he had not played for 5 years. And I told him, I said, "That's just so sad." I said, "You were the only one I wanted to beat." And he was now brave enough to do it again. So whenever I've been judging or whenever we've been advising people who are judging contests that we're associated with, we just tell them, you got to say something nice, and if you just really hate what they did, tell them afterwards, but don't put it on the score sheet. It's just so debilitating. So you got to be, so those of you who will be judges, like Julian, you'll probably be judging a contest sometime soon.
Absolutely.
Be nice. Be nice.
We'll have her sitting next to Randy.
Yeah,
Okay.
you just never know how much your words will have an impact.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's just kind of the culture of the contest. So I don't know of any of the contests in Minnesota that do. I like it when they do. I understand why we don't. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't know, Sheila, if you've got
I
a
do.
comment on that. Yeah.
I do. I write it into my grant request because I feel like it's an educational component, and I'm a little bit more likely also to be recipient of a grant if I have an educational component in there. We're helping people improve their craft, and so I do tell the judges that these comments are going to be shared. So, if you can't write something constructive, don't write anything at all. And some of them don't write anything at all. But still, they have a score and they know what area. Okay, all 3 judges gave me bad on my intonation. My intonation must be bad. So they at least they have their scores, even if there's not a lot of comments on them. But I try to select judges that I think will be good for those educational purposes. Because I'm a teacher, so.
I was at a contest in Rochester and they did hand out the scores with comments. And that to me was helpful, I thought, because it was positive.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it can be scary for fiddle players, but too bad. That's just the way it is. You don't have to read them. You should get them, but you don't have to read them. You can wait 5 years.
Well, I haven't made a decision on Manorville, so if I'm being swayed by the group, I could give out all the judge score sheets to people who come to Manorville. You can let me know.
I think it would be good. It would be helpful.
Okay.
People ask for them. They're like, "Can I see my score sheet?" So
Right.
I guess I just felt like I should.
Right.
That's very helpful.
Is it better to have a backup band for a score, or does that have any bearing on the score of the fiddle player?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think, again, that would depend on the discretion of the judges. For example, if you have backup players that are totally messing with your tempo or your chords or your keys, and yet you keep your head above water, I think that's when it would help. Because it would show that, you're a strong fiddle player no matter what happens around you.
How about if just overall they just make it sound better? I mean, does that sway the judges, or are they really listening to the fiddle tune?
Hopefully, I think they should be listening to the fiddle tune, but it's part of the atmosphere. I mean, if it's a hot day and you have air conditioning on stage, that's going to make you feel more comfortable. If you're more comfortable playing with a backup of any ability, I think you should be happy, you should be comfortable, and it spurs you on. It's more of a community thing when you have other people playing with you.
Then does it take away if you don't have a backup? I know it's all subjective, but I'm trying to get a feel for if it's a takeaway if you don't.
It just depends on trusting the strangers you don't know, or knowing that you don't want to deal with that and you just want to play.
Okay, thank you.
My personal thought is that I think having a backup helps my intonation and my rhythm. Left to my own devices, I will just rush all over the place. And even at my age, it's one of those things I've just never quite, So if I have someone standing next to me who's just, that nice strum downbeat, it helps me remember that I need to keep that beat, and I'm listening to that note. So if my fiddle's kind of going wonky, I at least maybe I have the guitar player going wonky, but at least I kind of listen to the chord, and it's helping me keep my intonation. So that's just my personal take. I prefer it.
That's after years of experience.
There you go. Yeah.
So the more you jump in and just try something. If the something doesn't work, then you don't do that something again. Or if it's not as bad as you thought. Just depends.
Thank you.
Just a couple of questions. If you're playing several tunes, they expect once through, twice through. If you don't have a really tight time limit, it sounds like maybe twice through is the way to go.
At the most. That's what I would do. That's what I would do.
Would they expect you just to play it once through?
Well, if that's what they expect, they should tell me ahead of time. Otherwise, I'm going to do what I think I should be doing, which would most likely be twice through. Or if there's like 5 million fiddle players. There have been a couple of times where we've been at events where there's so many fiddle players and a tornado is coming. And we know just where it is, but it's outside, and so then we would all have to decide, well, do I go north and then go west? So in a case like that, oftentimes in the middle of a contest, we'll say, there is a tornado on the way. It should be here maybe within the hour. So just play 2 tunes instead of 3. You know, you just have to ride with those variables. So I would just do if they're not going to give me specific instructions, I'm just going to do what I want.
All right, and a personal for a tune of choice, there's so many out there to choose, but I really like playing English and Irish hornpipes. Is that something in a danceable beat that would be acceptable as a tune of choice?
Only if the judges don't know what they're doing. I would think a hornpipe would always be considered a hoedown. But that's just me. And I've also been told that Ragtime Annie, although where I am, it's considered a hoedown. I heard at one point that in Texas, it's considered a tune of choice. Be careful. Do your research.
I was going to ask if you have a specific site that lists them. I, at once upon a time, found a site that did list, like all the tunes of choice known to mankind or whatever. and then you go and you open your book that you're learning that tune from, because I'm a note reader person, and it says hoedown when it's something, somewhere else it says it's clearly not a hoedown. So do you have a specific site that you frequent to determine?
Yes. First of all, there is a list of PDF stuff that I submitted to Mary Pat,
Okay.
where I did try to hoedowns, waltzes, tunes of choice. But also on the Minnesota State Fiddling Association website, there's a bunch of articles about fiddle contests and lists of tunes. And also, when you research different fiddling clubs all over the country and all over the planet, a lot of them will have lists of tunes. Sometimes they'll even have the actual tune. Sometimes they'll have recordings of the tune and the sheet music of the tune. So every now and then you should Google fiddle associations and see what you come up with, because a lot of these clubs will just list all this stuff for you. And they may change, time zone to time zone.
We've got a question up here, an opinion. Do you, and I know you always have one, Debbie, do you think it is more fair for judges to be able to see you or not? Like, should a contest be sequestered or not sequestered?
Well, it works both ways. I think for the sake of evaluating the presentation, yeah, but they would be able to, if you've got closed circuit TV, if they can see you while they're being sequestered, I think that's good. But that's like technical stuff that would have to be worked out. But otherwise, how can they judge presentation? They might hear you introduce intelligently, but if they couldn't see that you were smiling or that you were acknowledging, the little baby in the front row who's hearing live music for the first time, and you just zing a pizzicato to them, and they won't see that kind of stuff. So I'd rather be seen. But on the other hand, the judges are then also seen. So you know who they are.
Yeah, that's kind of a tough one. So, and I think the answer is that's why we don't take fiddle contest judging really, really, really seriously. So, yeah. So it's, as Debbie said, it's more for being able to meet other fiddlers, the experience of being able to get up on stage, that opportunity to learn more tunes from other fiddlers. So yeah, those are the reasons that we're doing it.
And it might not be the reasons you do it at first, but then after a while you realize, well, that's where the fun is.
Can I add one thing that the contest that I took over from Cotton, Minnesota, had always been a certified contest, so the contestant could then go on to nationals, and that was one of the rules. Was just that the judges, it had to be blind judging. They couldn't know the name of the person that they're judging, because then they would be more fair that way. So that's what I've continued with, the tradition of that, only for that reason.
Can you tell us about your fiddle? It's very unusual.
Oh, yes.
This was years ago. This was actually a midlife crisis, but as I have mentioned before to some of you, I have had several midlife crises after this, and I'm looking forward to a few more once I figure out how to tune my E string up to an F sharp. This is a viola pomposa made in Oregon by David Ravinis, and it has a nice weird shape. He was a very big fan of Salvador Dali. Remember the clock? The melting clock? Okay, there you go. And on the back, he has embroidered, or whatever this is, a replica of Salvador Dali's signature. It's so cool. And I originally wanted one of these because I was having trouble when I'd be driving to gigs. Sometime I would need a viola, and sometimes I would need a violin. And then I'm halfway there, and I'm wondering, oh my God, did I bring the right instrument? Because it's a whole other clef and stuff, and so that can get complicated. With this instrument, I can do both, which is really fun. So I've got your standard E, and then there's the A, and the D, and the G, and the C.
Ah, so it's a 5-string.
And I can feel it all the way to my toes. It's just
Nice.
lovely. From a teaching point of view, I find it really helpful if I have a student playing a fiddle tune in one of the upper strings. I can often play the same tune with them an octave lower. And they can often hear their intonation better if I'm an octave lower, as opposed to if I'm playing the exact same note and then they wonder, well, is that my note? Is that your note? So that comes in very handy. So I really like that. It's very fun. And since I've bought this one, many other fiddle players here in Nebraska have bought 5 strings. And some of them have been school teachers who teach classes of violins and violas and cellos at the same time. They don't have to switch instruments. They've got all the strings here that they need. So that's been very helpful.
Nice.
They're fun.
Well, I wanted to make sure that people knew about the different fiddle contests that are coming up. I'm working on one, as we mentioned earlier, the Stagecoach Days in Mantorville, Minnesota. That'll be on Saturday, June 26th. Much of what Debbie has said is going to be exactly what you need to do at Mantorville. So hopefully you take good notes, or you go back and you watch this again on YouTube, because, she pretty well nailed it. The one thing that's a little different with this contest is, since Stagecoach Days is an event that really celebrates the Victorian era in Mantorville, Minnesota. When I crafted a fiddle contest, I suggested that we do fiddle tunes prior to 1901, which is the end of the Victorian era. So that's the only difference, is that this is really an old-timey contest. So tune knowledge will be as important as some of the other aspects of the contest. So if you're somebody who really knows their tunes, you're going to get extra points. So it's a nice one to go to if sometime you feel like you're the old-timey fiddler who's showing up with all the Texas swing hot shots and you don't have a chance. Those are the other contests. So this is one that, but if you know your tunes, this is a good one to go to. There is also a Civil War category, and there is the play a fiddle tune on anything other than a fiddle. Let's see, I got to go back. Other acoustic instrument, we call it, and a Civil War category. And the Civil War category can be also any instrument. So there's some opportunities. And when the contest is done, normally in a normal environment, Stagecoach Days would have a number of events going on around town, but we're kind of it, because we can do a COVID-friendly event. So they've scaled down their their whole deal, and they're kind of just doing a fiddle contest. So we decided rather than having entertainment, that there essentially are two bands that are running the contest, Hoof on the Roof and the String Beans. And so we're going to be doing backup and judging and running around and score sheets during the contest. And as soon as the contest is done, we're going to run a jam for everybody. So come on down. Even if you're not coming to the contest, come on down, hang out, and we'll have kind of a band-led jam for everyone who comes to participate. So it should be a lot of fun. This may be a new way of just us doing fiddle contests, because we're liking this better than having to do a more formal, entertainment. I think a number of you know about the Big Lake contest. That one was canceled last year, and from what I understand, I don't think it's going to be coming back at all. So unfortunately, we've kind of lost a contest. The folks in Pillager, who usually do one in April, are looking at doing one in July. I've not seen anything yet. Pillager is up in northern Minnesota. Karen, I kind of see you here. I don't know if you're, here at this point. Karen Stiles, who runs the Dakota County Fair Fiddle Contest. I know it sounds like they're having the Dakota County Fair. You know anything more, Karen?
I don't, but it's on my list of things to investigate.
Yeah, so we're still so Dakota County, and normally that would be, if they hold it, the most likely would be Saturday, August 14th would be the most probable date if they have that. And Dakota County is just south of the Twin Cities in Farmington, Minnesota. Then the state fair, the Minnesota State Fair Fiddle Contest is in the end of August. That would be August 28th and 29th, I believe, if I've got the right dates. So we don't know. We're still waiting to see what they plan on doing for the Minnesota State Fair. Everything we're hearing is that they're planning on having the state fair. They have asked us if we are willing to do a contest. We've said yes. So what we have available are basically the rule sheets and all the information that you need, and I've got that in the links that I put in the chat, and we've got those on the Minnesota State Fiddle Association website, fiddlemn.com. So she just has all the information with the categories and all that stuff, but she just doesn't have the specific time and place, and so you can at least prepare for it. But you'll have to decide. We'll know then when we actually know from the state fair. So that one is a 2-day contest. So if you are younger, you can come on a Saturday, and all of the young adults are all judged and awarded on one day. But if you are in the adult or the senior or the open divisions, it's a 2-round contest. So you need to be prepared to come back. So if you place in those divisions, you need to be, if you're in the open division, it's a 2-round contest. So you need to prepare for both Saturday and Sunday. If you place in the adult or senior, you need to be in first or second, you need to be prepared to come and do a runoff on Sunday. So that's another time. It's good to read your rules. I've had that where I forgot the part about there was a runoff, and I did better than I thought. And darn, what do you mean I need another tune? So, shoot. So anyway, but just forewarned. The really cool thing about the state fair is that on non-COVID, it's a huge crowd. So if you want that opportunity to get on, and I know there's some of you out there who've been on the stage, it's really cool to be on a professional stage with a packed audience, just, playing your stuff, and whether it doesn't matter whether you win or not, you just get this wonderful, great professional experience. So anyway, I think it's, a really great experience. I've kind of skipped over Sheila. Sheila, do you know what's happening with Mountain Iron?
I'm trying to unmute myself. I think we have a plan to come back this year. We did take a year off. Traditionally, our date is the first weekend of August. And this year, I happen to have a wedding, and I'm conducting a pit orchestra for musical Hello, Dolly. So I'm wanting to do it the second weekend, which if that would be a problem with Karen, let me know. I might be able to do something very end of July, the 31st. So not everything is 100%, in place, but I want to do something a little bit different this year rather than have, like you said, Mary Pat, a runoff where you'd have, prelims and finals. Have it kind of be more of a one and done kind of a scenario, so that we could have it in the middle part of the day so people could drive from other parts of the state, do the contest, and then get home before bedtime, hopefully. So we're looking at like noon to 4. And if we do it on the 14th, we can also be in conjunction with our city's Merit Days celebrations. They wanted the Fiddlers to be in a parade at 4:30 if they wanted to. And, there'd be pancake breakfast at the senior center before, if people wanted to come the night before and stay overnight or whatnot. But it's traditionally been a qualifying contest for the nationals. So some people like that, that if they have aspirations to move on. And we just certified just the championship division, not every age category. And we also have a non-fiddle category. I have a fiddle club at my school where I teach, and so I have cellists and violists and people that want to play, but also mandolins and banjos and guitars, so everybody's welcome. We do provide the backup accompaniment, and I guess this year I would be asking people to give me a kind of an indication if they want to use the backup accompanist. Last couple of years we haven't had a lot of use for them because everyone brings their own, maybe because it's such a distance that they're coming that they just bring someone with them, but we do usually provide that.
Cool. Glad to hear it. So Sigrid, I didn't mean to skip over Sigrid, but you're hoping to have your first fiddle contest this year, this in fall. You got any plans yet?
Yeah. Hi, Mary Pat. Nice to meet you in person.
That's right. Lots of emailing here, but this is our first face-to-face.
So I'm on the board of Friends of the Farm. It's a preservation committee that works on behalf of Holtz Farm, which is a historic farmstead in Eagan, Minnesota, just south of the Twin Cities. And we would like to put on a fiddling contest. Last year we were going to, and we got a generous grant from you guys. So this year we are hoping we can do this. This workshop has given me a lot of ideas about how we could structure the contest. We pattern our farm. It's a 1940s working farm. So I don't know, I'm getting ideas now, but we haven't set a firm date yet, but I think it's going to happen. It's somewhat dependent on like city and state guidelines and COVID, blah, blah, blah. But I'm hopeful by the fall, everything will be a little more open, a little more suitable, at least for outdoor gatherings. So more to come.
Cool.
Want to put that out there.
Stay tuned. And of course, I kind of jumped the gun and I had started telling people that we were going to have Laura Days in Pepin. The committee did think we were going to be able to do it. Unfortunately, the Pepin County Health Department and Village Board did not agree with our modified plans. So they just this week, in fact, I said, if you're going to make a decision, can you make it before this workshop? Because I don't want to promote this workshop and then tell people, oh, never mind. So we won't be having, even though we could hold a fiddle contest safely, they cannot hold the entire event safely. So it wasn't about the fiddle contest, it was about other aspects of the event. So at any rate, so we are not going to be having Laura Days in Pepin. Basically, we're just going to take this time to do some fundraising. We may have some kind of event going on that day, but it'll be more for local folks and that sort of thing. Maybe some jamming, we'll see. We'll stay tuned. But yeah, so we're saying see you in 2022 for Laura Days. The cool thing about Laura Days is that's the one that if you were a fan of Little House on the Prairie and Pa's Fiddling, that is the contest that kind of really showcases, or kind of honors that particular heritage. And it's probably the cutest contest. I think it would win the award for the cute contest because all the girls come dressed up in their prairie outfits. They have vendors that sell them, so they all dress up like they go to the Laura contest before the fiddle contest, so they're all dressed up, and so they all show up on stage in their outfits. It's awesome. So at any rate, so it's a lot of fun. It's just kind of a fun, cool sort of family day, and we get a lot of kids to the point where we've got little ones. So I think the youngest we've had was 3. So we call them the peewees. So we got the peewees that show up, and so it's a really fun contest for little ones and for big families. And like Debbie said, a lot of times people are just sort of dragged to a contest. The nice thing about Laura Days is that the family who needs to be there watching the contest can do that, and then the kids can run around to the petting zoo and get their chicken and play the games and do all these other kinds of things. So that's always the second full weekend after Labor Day in Pepin, Wisconsin. So put it on your calendar for 2022. Am I missing any other contests? Oh, all right. So if you have been so inspired by Debbie that you think you want to host your own contest, the Minnesota State Fiddle Association has a grant program. We give grants of up to $500 to various organizations. And one thing we have supported, as Sigrid mentioned, one of the things we've supported is fiddle contests. So Laura Days, Stagecoach Days, and Sigrid's Holtz Farm contests have all been supported through grants through the Minnesota State Fiddle Association. So the next round of grants will be, the next round of grants will be due July 1st. So if you are, interested in this or some other kind of project, shoot us an email. We'll get you a grant application. So, and I'm going to put our email in the chat in case MSFA fiddlers@gmail.com. Okay. All right, I'm going to check quick to see if I've missed any questions. So, cool. Any questions?
Well, I was just going to say, if anyone has any questions after the workshop, just email me. Email Mary Pat, make her give you my email. And,
that's right.
and just let me know, because you think you know what you're doing, and then sometimes something comes up later. So stay in touch. I'm gonna fiddle in a contest. I'm gonna strut my stuff. I'm gonna stare down those judges if they don't like it tough. I'm gonna fiddle in a contest. I'm gonna play the best I can. I'm gonna clap for other fiddlers, 'cause I'm a fiddling fan. So let's pack up our fiddle and let's pack up our bow. We'll journey to the place where lots of fiddle players go. We'll play some waltzes and some hoedowns and other songs we choose, where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose. Where the winners do some winning and the losers never lose.